majority of midterm elections are over, and many historical firsts took place last night.
Coming up, we'll take a look at the major headlines from yesterday's races and see how the campus is reacting to the news.
Last night, millions of Americans casted their vote in the 2018 midterm elections, and over 100 women are headed to Capitol Hill. I'm Abby McIntosh, and coming up, I'll let you know what some students have to say about that.
The 2018 midterm elections brought more diversity than we have ever seen heading to Capitol Hill. I'm Kira Benedetti, and tonight we'll be telling you how people at the University of Mississippi are reacting.
Good evening, and thank you for tuning into NewsWatch Ole Miss. I'm Grace McClanahan.
And I'm Bess Pavlakovich.
Voters have the opportunity to weigh in on President Trump in yesterday's midterm elections.
With the GOP keeping the Senate and the Democrats in control of the House, there's a lot of questions onto what the next 2 years will look like on Capitol Hill.
After one of the most expensive and most contentious midterm campaigns in U.S. history, both parties are walking away with something to talk up.
This election marks the largest Senate gains for a president's party in a first midterm election since at least President Kennedy's in 1962.
In an often combative press conference today, President Trump took credit for wins in tight Senate races.
I think people like me. I think people like the job I'm doing, frankly.
Democrats, taking control of the House for the first time in 8 years, are pledging to keep the president and Republicans in check.
American people want to put an end to unchecked GOP control of Washington, restoring again the checks and balances envisioned by our founders.
The Democratic victory in the House can be seen as a voter rebuke of the president, his policies, and his rhetoric. But Republicans, holding on to the Senate, have ousted at least 3 Democrats in red states in the process. A divided Congress will now require a more bipartisan approach to legislating in order to avoid gridlock in Washington.
Hopefully we can all work together next year to continue delivering for the American people.
We will strive for bipartisanship. We believe that we have a responsibility to seek common ground.
The new dynamic between the two parties on the Hill and in the White House will now set the tone for the 2020 presidential race.
Some races, including the Georgia governor race, have not named a winner yet. Jeff Sessions has been forced out as Attorney General. CBS reports that Sessions has submitted his resignation at the request of White House Chief of Staff John Kelly. Sessions has repeatedly been under attack by President Trump after disqualifying himself from the investigation into Russian interference in the 2016 election. President Trump tweeted his well wishes to Sessions to break the news of his resignation. Sessions Chief of Staff Matthew G. Whitaker will now become the acting Attorney General. Whitaker will also oversee the Russia investigation he previously criticized in August of 2017.
Mississippi Senator Roger Wicker easily won re-election last night, but the special election for U.S. Senators is headed to a runoff. NewsWatch reporter Chance Robertson has Ole Miss reactions to Republican Sidney Hyde-Smith and Democrat Mike Espy taking the top 2 spots.
The second Senate seat is still open with a runoff set for November 27th. Graduate student Marissa Wyant says why students should be active in this runoff and how strong their votes are to the city.
If everybody at Ole Miss voted, every student at Ole Miss voted, they would run this town because there's more students than there are, right, census counted citizens of voter age in Oxford.
With one seat still up for grabs in the Senate for Mississippi, an Ole Miss professor provides an in-depth look at this runoff with historical implications.
So yeah, so in some ways it's fairly historic one way or the other, regardless of who wins this time around. I mean, Hyde-Smith's already there because she was appointed, but this would be her winning a full election, and it'd be the first African American elected to the Senate since Reconstruction times. So in modern modern political era.
Wyant reminds students that the runoff gives them a second opportunity to be heard and how they can go about that process.
Research the candidates, find your polling place, make sure you're registered, double check that, right? And show up. And if they tell you you can't vote, ask them why, right? Ask for a provisional ballot, ask for an affidavit ballot, whatever. Be represented.
November 27th will be a historical day in Mississippi's political history, and everyone should be a part of this milestone. Chance Robertson, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
Espy sent a letter to Hyde-Smith today asking for 3 debates before the runoff. A record number of women were elected into Congress and are headed to Capitol Hill. NewsWatch reporter Abby McClanahan shows us some student reactions to the results.
Nearly 100 years ago, women gained the right to vote, and yesterday they made their voices heard. After electing an unprecedented number of women to the nation's highest legislative body, women showed their support to Susan B. Anthony by placing their I voted stickers on her grave in New York. For many women candidates, this was their first time running, and students like junior Bethany Downs couldn't help but feel pride and optimism for the future.
It's really exciting and it's really encouraging. Like, as a young woman studying public policy and political science, it's nice to know that women can be elected and that people do trust them to lead our country.
Students like Downs are encouraged to see so many women headed to Capitol Hill after last night's midterm elections. Senior Jack Sullivan agrees with Downs and also says he thinks it's about time that women have a more dominant voice.
And I think it's about time that we have more women in these positions, especially when there are issues that I believe involve women and their decisions in Congress. And so I think it's all about wanting more perspectives and more representation.
Downs also says she noticed these women thought outside the box when running their campaigns and that she thinks it could set a new standard for elections.
Seeing like some of these like non-traditional campaigns that have been run during this election cycle makes me excited for the way that our nation is starting to do things. People are demanding accountability from their candidates, so it's really exciting too.
These newly elected representatives and senators will begin their 2-year terms on January 3rd, 2019. Abby McClanahan, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
95 women will take seats in the House and 13 women will take seats in the Senate. Both numbers are up from last election.
In addition to a record number of women elected last night, there were several other milestones set. NewsWatch reporter Kira Bettinecci gives us an inside look on how professors and students at Ole Miss are reacting to the overwhelming outcome of diversity seen by the 2018 midterm elections.
And together we have made history for New Mexico and for America.
After months of campaigning and competition between parties, the 2018 election season has come to a close, resulting in the highest numbers of diversity seen at Capitol Hill in the country's history. Ranging from the first Muslim women in Congress to the first openly gay man in Congress, huge changes were made in the U.S. government, and while many are excited to see these changes, political science professor Connor Dowling wonders if this will ultimately unite the country.
Can they sort of work together with their diversity, right? And sort of, if you're thinking about from the perspective of sort of party organization, to what extent can the Democratic Party sort of come together, right? So they have this more diverse pool of candidates and now office holders, and how do they come together and work together and stay sort of united, if you want to use that term.
Professors in Dupree Hall are not the only ones excited about the diversity that came out of the 2018 midterm elections. Students at the University of Mississippi are also sharing their excitement about the outcomes.
Gives you hope. That's the biggest thing I think America needs is hope right now, and I feel like diversity is definitely what gives people hope, to know that I have people that look like me and people that don't look like me making decisions that are based on what's best for everybody, and so I think it's really great for America.
Story thinks this increase in diversity will be beneficial because it gives everybody an opportunity to be represented.
I can tell you my point of view, you can tell me your point of view, and the third party can tell their point of view on how they feel about every situation.
History still has the chance to be made, as some of the results have yet to be concluded. Be sure to stay updated on polling results so you can know more. Kira Bettinecci, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
2 Native American women and 2 Muslim women were elected into Congress last night. They are just 4 newly elected officials that will make the 116th Congress the most diverse in history.
Out-of-state students have to go the extra mile to vote in their elections. NewsWatch reporter Hannah Huff talked to 2 Ole Miss students who gave their impressions of what happened in their own states.
Junior Malia Willis is from Sugar Land, Texas, and says although she is away at school, she wanted to participate in the election back home.
I wanted to exercise my right to vote, so I registered online for an absentee ballot to make sure that my voice was heard this election.
Yesterday, Democrats in Texas came close to taking the Senate seat, and they have not had a Democratic senator in over 20 years, which is one reason why Willis wanted to be a part of the election.
It was a pretty interesting election because this is like one of the first times in a few years that Texas has been distinguishedly split between the Republican and the Democratic Party.
Willis says although the race was close, there were factors that made it hard for the Democratic Party to win the Senate in Texas.
I think that the Democratic Party really did have a shot, but I also think that it's going to be very difficult to make all of Texas blue because there are so many agricultural and economic needs in the Republican Party.
Tennessee is another state that gained special attention during the election, and Junior Hannah Hastings said it was important for her to participate.
The race was pretty important, so I actually sent in an absentee ballot in order to get my vote in. And actually this race was one of the most expensive ones in Tennessee history, so I'm proud to say that I voted.
The recent Tennessee race has been the most expensive Senate race in Tennessee history, and Texas came close to going blue. Both these states have had historical election results that affect many Ole Miss students, including Hastings and Willis. Hannah Huff, NewsWatch Ole Miss.
Other elections that receive national attention are Florida's Senate and governor races and Missouri's Senate race.
As the 2018 election cycle comes to an end, students across the Ole Miss campus have different opinions about the results. NewsWatch reporter Kristen Bentley is in the studio with more. Kristen?
Thanks, Grace. Students who voted in the 2018 midterm elections have strong opinions about the outcome of the historical race that determined which party would have majority control in both the House and the Senate.
Midterm elections came to a close yesterday, and students on the Ole Miss campus are filled with mixed feelings about the results. Freshman Zaria Simon says she's mostly pleased with the outcome of the historical election.
The Democrats won the House, which is actually pretty good, and although it might cause some more problems with gridlock, I feel like the very extreme, bills and everything won't be able to go through because we have people in the House to keep us neutral.
Senior Matthew Boyd says he's happy that the silent majority kept control of the Senate.
So it's good that we won Texas. I heard they spent the most amount of money they've ever spent, Democratic Party, and they still lost. The silent majority spoke up again, just like in the elections of 2016.
The results from the 2018 midterm elections will play a big role in the next presidential election in 2020.
With the Democrats gaining control of the House and Republicans maintaining control of the Senate, it will definitely make for an exciting political climate. Grace, Anna, Bess, back to you.
Wow, what an exciting election for women.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kristen. Up next, find out why the progress between North Korea and the U.S. may be hitting a stalemate.
And stay tuned to see why there may not be any Savannah smiles between Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts after a recent lawsuit. But first, Camryn Sidley has your first look at the current conditions.
Hey Rebels, happy Wednesday. As we take a look at our current weather headlines, you can see there is going to be a chance of rain tonight, and along with that, high humidity and cooler temperatures throughout the week. As we take a look at our radar image, you'll see that there won't be a lot of clouds over Oxford, at least right now, but that won't be the case later tonight. Coming up on Storm Watch, I'll tell you everything you need to know for the rest of the week.
What do you think you're doing, Kevin?
Was just gonna drive home.
There are several warning signs present that you shouldn't be driving.
Like hearing voices?
Like your text-to-emoji ratio?
Oh man, the selfies.
Selfie, nailed it. We all have warning signs that let us know that we're probably not okay to drive. Mine is pretending to be your subconscious.
Craig, come on man, let's split a ride home.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I, Kristen, take you, Jamie, to be my wife. When we found out that we were pregnant, we were just elated. We were just sitting there waiting for the pediatrician. She said she won't be taking you in as a client.
We are a lesbian couple, but she's just a baby. She's the one you're denying the service to.
with North Korea months after President Trump's landmark meeting with Kim Jong-un. President Trump announced that U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's meeting with his North Korean counterpart has been postponed. The meeting is said to be rescheduled for next year. No reason was given for the delay, but experts believe this is a sign that North Korea has not been willing to make concessions on denuclearization. The U.S. has been pressing North Korea to open sites connected to its nuclear program for inspections, but North Korea wants the U.S. to ease sanctions on the Kim regime. The long-running dispute between the Girl Scouts and the Boy Scouts has now ended up in court. The Girl Scouts of the USA have filed a trademark infringement lawsuit against the Boy Scouts of America after the organization announced it would be dropping boy from its name in 2019. The formerly boys-only group has started to welcome girls into their troops. The Girl Scouts argue that the Boy Scouts do not have the right to use Scouts or Scouting. The Girl Scouts believe the change has caused confusion among the public and will marginalize their brand and activities.
Motel 6 has agreed to pay up to $7.6 million to Hispanic guests to settle a lawsuit. According to reports, the suit claims the chain violated the group's privacy by sharing guest lists with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement agents. The company also agreed to a 2-year consent decree that bars it from providing guest data to immigration authorities without subpoenas, warrants, or threats of serious crime or harm. The plaintiffs in Motel 6 have filed a proposed settlement agreement that would resolve the lawsuit between the two parties if it is approved by the district court. Research has been put into funding alien intelligence for decades, and now a new study out of MIT proposes using a high-powered laser to send a signal into space. They're hoping that the signal could stand out from the massive energy of our sun to announce our presence to someone else in the cosmos. The kinds of lasers and telescopes being built today can produce a detectable signal so that other astronomers could look at our stars and detect something unusual about its spectrum. The idea is essentially a planetary-scale lighthouse.
Well, Anna Bess, do you believe in aliens?
I definitely do.
Well, you know what? Speaking of things that are in the sky, the rainy weather has left us here in Oxford, but the overcast skies have seemed to stay.
Coming up in our extended forecast, Camryn and Sidley will let us know if the sun will make a return this week.
Listen, you're my friend.
I noticed you haven't really been yourself recently.
Yeah, I feel like something's up.
How are you?
Are you okay?
Is there anything you want to talk about?
I just want to know how you're feeling.
And listen, even if you don't know what to say, I'm here to talk.
No matter what you're going through,
I just want you to know I'm here.
I've got your back.
When you want to talk, I'm here.
Leah, did you put a new dent in that?
This one? No.
Were you texting and driving again?
Yes.
Hi, Leah.
Hi, Dad.
Sorry about your bumper.
Disaster tips from the objects left behind.
My home wasn't insured, but you can check your insurance policy now to make sure you're covered. Oh.
My savings are lost, but you can put money aside and plan for unexpected disaster costs.
We're lost forever, but you can scan important documents now so they survive.
For more tips on how to prepare, visit ready.gov.
Hey Rebels, happy Wednesday. As we take a look at our current temperatures, you can see we're still at a pretty cool 55 degrees, mostly cloudy outside with some slight winds, but no chance of rain right now, so I'm looking forward to that.
As we take a look at our satellite image, you can see again just a few clouds over Oxford right now, but that won't be the case later tonight. We will see some rain, so you definitely want to be prepared for that. As we look at our current temperatures, you can see we have 54 in South Haven, Holly Springs, and Corinth, and 55 in Oxford and Tupelo. As we take a look at tomorrow's temperatures, they're going to be pretty similar. We have 53 in South Haven, 52 in Oxford, 54 in Holly Springs and Corinth, and 55 in Tupelo. As we move on to tonight's temperatures, as you can see, it'll drop down to about 45 degrees, mostly clear, but we will have a 40% chance of rain, so you definitely want to be prepared for that. As we take a look at tomorrow's temperatures, again, will be similar to today. We have 52 with a chance of rain and some light winds, and of course, a chance of rain at 40%. As we take a look at our 5-day forecast, you can see we have Friday at 52, Saturday at 45, Sunday at 52, Monday at 50, and Tuesday at 40. Back to you guys at the desk.
Thanks, Camryn. The Ole Miss women's basketball team started their season last night. See if Coach Yo got a win in her coaching debut.
And the preseason All-SEC teams were announced yesterday. Find out which Rebel made the list. Up next in Sports Watch.
Don't ignore the subtext. It's on us to intervene in sexual assault. Because we can. Take the pledge at itsonus.org.
There was an old woman who lived in a shoe. She had so many children, she didn't know what to do. She gave them some broth without any bread and kissed them all soundly.
Lights out.
Good night. And put them to bed. Hunger is a story we can end. End it at feedingamerica.org.
Action.
You think getting dumped by text is harsh? Try getting dumped by a tennis ball. My ex-owner drove me out to the woods, yelled fetch, and by the time I brought the ball back, he was gone. Yeah, I was pissed. But the folks at the shelter helped me let go of my anger. I learned coping skills, like taking it to the hole. Boom! Now I'm ready to fetch again. But how about I throw and you run and get it?
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Sports Watch. I'm AJ Norwood. Last night was huge for the Ole Miss women's basketball team as they tipped off their season with a win under new head coach Alette McEwen. Ole Miss defeated Norfolk State 60-42 after getting off to a sluggish start as the Spartans took an 8-0 lead at the start of the game. The Rebels were able to fight back under Crystal Allen's 16 points and Jalea Dunlap's 12-point, 10-rebound double-double. Coach Yo said it wasn't the prettiest game, but she's glad they got the win. The Rebels will return to the Pavilion Friday night as they take on Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. Switching it over to men's basketball, Ole Miss senior guard Terrence Davis was named preseason second-team All-SEC for the second consecutive year. The South Haven, Mississippi native ranks 39th in Ole Miss history with 1,011 career points. Davis has started in 51 games in a Rebel uniform, including posting a career-high 33 points against LSU his sophomore season. The senior also led the Rebels in scoring and rebounding last season. Davis and the Rebels will tip off their season Saturday afternoon in the Pavilion against Western Michigan. The awards just keep rolling again for the Ole Miss men's cross-country team. Coach Ryan Van Hoy and freshman Cade Bettman both received SEC honors following their win at the SEC Cross Country Championships. Van Hoy received SEC Men's Coach of the Year, while Bettman took SEC Men's Freshman of the Year. Coach Van Hoy was able to help lead the Rebel men to the first SEC title in Ole Miss track or cross-country history. The Rebels will be heading to Florida State for the NCAA South Regional, which will begin at 7:30 a.m. on Friday morning. Last night kicked off what is sure to be an exciting year of college basketball. The Kansas Jayhawks were able to just ease by the Michigan State Spartans 92-87. Kansas duo Quentin Grimes and Dedrick Lawson were the benefactors in the win as they produced big play after big play. Perhaps the biggest story of the night was the Duke Blue Devils destroying the Kentucky Wildcats 118-84. Duke freshmen Zion Williamson and R.J. Barrett shared the spotlight as they dominated the game, combining for 61 total points. Again, the Ole Miss Rebels are looking to get off to an explosive start as well as they tip off their season Saturday against Western Michigan. That's all I have for you today in sports. Be sure to follow us at NewsWatch_UM to stay up to date with all things sports. Anna, Bess, Grace, back to you.
Thanks, AJ. Up next, see the shining moment that happened in Washington, D.C. yesterday.
Stay tuned to find out how the rainy day made for an unbelievable sight on Capitol Hill.
Here is my handle and here is my spout.
When I get all steamed up, then I shout,
Tip me over and pour me out. Oh.
It only takes a moment to make a moment.
Cheers.
Take time to be a dad today.
We are Ole Miss Rebels. As Mississippi's flagship university, we dig deeper, see farther, work harder. We pioneered human organ transplants. We helped prove Einstein's theory of gravitational waves. We are distinguished as a Carnegie R1 top 2.5% research institution. We are Ole Miss, transforming lives and the world.
When I was your age, I was just like you, fascinated by stars. But now I get to search for life in the universe. And who knows, maybe life is looking for us too.
So we're like aliens to them?
Yeah. Does anyone want to be a scientist now?
I do.
Awesome. We need more girls in STEM.
Maybe we can find aliens.
This year, patriotism shouldn't just be about pride of country. It should be about love. Remember that to love America is to love all Americans. Because love has no labels.
Somewhere over the rainbow lies the U.S. Capitol? Well, at least that's what happened last night. As the sun set on Election Day, a rainbow appeared behind Capitol Hill.
The picture of the rainbow brightened social media, with many saying how magnificent and beautiful it was, and others hoping that it would be a good sign and omen for the elections. Wow, that was beautiful. I hope we get to see a rainbow sometime soon.
I know, me too. Camryn, with all this rain that's happening, do we have a chance for a rainbow? Let us know.
I'm not sure about rainbows, but I know we'll see some rain tonight, and we will see scattered thunderstorms throughout the week, so there might be a chance.
All right, well, I'm keeping my hopes up for that rainbow. Thanks, Camryn. That's all we have for tonight. Thank you for tuning in to NewsWatch Ole Miss. I'm Grace McClanahan.
Be sure to join us here again tomorrow night at 5 and on NewsWatchOleMiss.com. I'm Bess Pavlakovich. Thank you and good night.